There is a version of you that very few people will ever meet. Not because it doesn't exist, but because most of your life is spent operating from old programming instead of your true self. That is a version of you that doesn't get shaken every time someone criticizes you, misunderstands you, rejects you, or speaks behind your back. A version of you that doesn't lose sleep over what someone said at work, what someone posted online, or why someone failed to see your value. It's a version of you that carries a quiet presence, not loud, not forceful, not trying to prove anything to anyone, but the kind of presence people feel before you even say a word. And that version isn't reserved for people with perfect childhoods, perfect confidence, or perfect lives. That version exists within you. But reaching it requires unlearning almost everything you've ever been taught. Because many of us are conditioned to believe that strength means reacting, defend yourself, explain yourself, prove yourself, make sure people understand your side of the story, make sure nobody thinks they can walk all over you. And because of that conditioning, you spent years giving away one of your most valuable resources, and that is your life force energy. Every time you react to someone who never deserved access to your peace, you hand over your power. Every time you replay conversations at 2 a.m., your nervous system continues fighting battles that ended many, many hours ago. Every time you over explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you, you disconnect from your own truth. In Omnisource, we call this running an unconscious inner OS. The old operating system reacts because it wants safety, approval, validation, or control. But your higher self does something different. It observes, it understands, and then it chooses. Ignoring is not weakness, ignoring is suppression. Sometimes ignoring is even self respect. Because not every battle deserves your energy, and not every invitation deserves your attention. Today, I want to share a few principles that can completely change how you move through life, not by making you cold, but by making you internally free. Because true power isn't controlling other people. True power is becoming the person that other people's chaos can no longer control. The first thing to understand is that your greatest asset is not your money or your status or even your time. It is your attention. Because attention is where your life force flows. And wherever your life force flows, reality begins organizing around it. Think about your own life. How much energy have you spent replaying conversations? How much attention have you given to people who hurt you, disappointed you, or even maybe never saw your value? Most people don't realize that attention is not free. Every moment you give someone your focus, emotional energy, and mental space, you're making an investment. So ask yourself, what return am I receiving from this investment? If I spend hours replaying what someone said, what did I actually gain? If I keep explaining myself to someone committed to misunderstanding me, what did I gain? Usually the answer is nothing, but actually it's less than nothing because you didn't only lose time, you lost energy, you lost peace, you lost presence. The wounded self that you have constantly leaks energy outward. It scans for danger, it seeks validation, and it asks, what do they think about me? Why did they do that? How do I make them understand? But a healthier inner OS asks completely different questions. Does this deserve access to my energy? Because not every opinion deserves a reaction. Not every misunderstanding deserves an explanation. Not every invitation deserves your attention. People with the greatest peace have developed an inner filter, a conscious filter, and they become intentional about what gets access to their mind, heart, and life force. So build that filter, honor that filter, and watch your entire life reality begin to change. The second thing that healing teaches is this: not everyone is meant to walk the entire path with you. And that doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make you unkind. It means you're becoming conscious about where your energy lives. Because every relationship is an energy exchange. Some relationships will nourish you, some help you grow, and some slowly drain your life force. Sometimes our instinct is to fight for those relationships, to prove ourselves, to explain ourselves, to make people understand. But often that creates the opposite result. You become emotionally tied to the very thing you want emotional freedom from. Your thoughts revolve around them, your energy revolves around them. And instead of building your life, you begin managing their existence inside of your mind. Sometimes healing is not fighting harder. Sometimes healing is simply withdrawing your energy quietly, without drama, without revenge, without needing to say the last word. And sometimes the most difficult people to recognize are energy drains. People you genuinely love, people with good hearts. But every interaction leaves you feeling heavy. Every boundary creates guilt. Every problem becomes yours to carry. And if you're naturally caring or empathic, you can begin believing that loving someone means rescuing them. But within healing my clients, I teach them something very important: that you cannot endlessly pour into someone who has not chosen to fill themselves. Eventually, you don't save them because you lose yourself. Protecting your energy isn't abandoning people, it's allowing yourself to remain whole. Sometimes the healthiest thing isn't cutting people out with anger, it's changing the level of access they have to you. Less explaining, less rescuing, more boundaries, and more clarity, more self respect. That's the most important. Finally, the real solution is building an inner foundation that cannot easily be shaken. Because the reason people can get under your skin isn't because they are powerful, it's because unresolved wounds and unconscious patterns are still running your inner OS. If someone's words completely change your emotional state, something deeper is being activated. They didn't create the wound, they touched the wound that already existed. And understanding that changes everything. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean becoming cold. It doesn't mean becoming detached. It doesn't mean pretending that nothing affects you. You are meant to feel deeply. The goal isn't to stop feeling. The goal is to stop handing the steering wheel of your inner world to other people. Most people live from the outside in. Someone praises you, and then you feel worthy. Someone criticizes you, and you feel small. Someone rejects you, and then you begin to question yourself. Their emotional state becomes outsourced. Your emotional state becomes outsourced. And when your emotional state is outsourced, your peace becomes dependent on things that you cannot control. The first step is awareness. Notice your patterns. What makes you defensive? What makes you seek validation? What makes you abandon yourself to keep someone else comfortable? Because your triggers are not your enemies, they are messengers. Healing doesn't ask, how do I stop feeling this? Healing asks, what is this trying to show me? And slowly, something beautiful happens. You stop reacting automatically. You create space. You observe. You choose. And the things that once shook you begin losing their power. Not because you become harder, but because you became more rooted. And people who are rooted move through life very differently. They feel deeply, they love deeply, but they no longer lose themselves in the noise that is around them. Everything we've talked about today points towards one thing: learn to reclaim your energy, protect your attention because it is your life force. Become intentional about who and what gets access to your heart, mind, and energy. Allow your non reactions to become evidence of your healing. Because healing isn't suppressing emotions, healing is updating the inner OS. So old wounds stop running your system. And the version of you that is peaceful, grounded, and free isn't waiting somewhere in the future. You're building that version now, one choice, one boundary, and one conscious moment at a time.